Rain has a way of exposing everything people try to hide. On that night, it exposed a man's exhaustion, a young woman's desperation, and a chain of events that would quietly change their lives forever. Under flickering streetlights and a sky that seemed to be crying for the whole city, a single dad waiter made one small choice that felt ordinary at the time. Days later, his daughter would see that same face on television and realize that kindness never truly disappears. It only waits for the right moment to come back. Before the story unfolds any further, take a second and ask yourself something simple. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that even the smallest good deed can echo far beyond one rainy night, then please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. The man's name was Daniel, though very few people ever asked it. To most, he was just another waiter in a modest roadside restaurant that stayed open late for truck drivers, night shift nurses, and anyone else life had kept awake. He moved through his shifts quietly, shoulders slightly hunched, eyes carrying the weight of years that had not been kind. Every night, he counted tips with careful precision, knowing exactly how much milk cost, how much school lunches added up to, and how little room there was for mistakes. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness that swallowed their savings and left behind a silence so loud it followed him everywhere. Since then, his world had narrowed to two things: surviving each day and protecting his daughter from seeing how close they were to the edge. His daughter Lily was 9 years old and carried a brightness that seemed almost defiant against their circumstances. She believed her father could fix anything, that he was strong in ways no one else could be. Daniel let her believe, even when his hands shook from exhaustion as he tied his apron each night. He worked double shifts whenever possible, came home smelling of coffee and fried food, and fell asleep on the couch still in his uniform because mornings came too fast. The rain that night was especially heavy, the kind that soaked shoes and spirits alike, and Daniel felt every drop as he locked up after closing. As he stepped outside, the parking lot shimmered with reflections of neon signs and passing headlights. That was when he noticed her. A young woman stood near the edge of the lot, drenched, hair plastered to her face, arms wrapped tightly around herself as if trying to keep the world out. She looked lost in a way that went beyond not knowing directions. There was panic in her posture, fear in the way she kept glancing over her shoulder. Daniel hesitated, instinctively aware of the risks but equally aware of something deeper. He thought of Lily, of what he would hope a stranger might do for her if she were ever alone in the rain. He approached slowly, keeping distance, offering nothing but presence and calm. The young woman was shaking, clearly overwhelmed, and it became obvious she had no phone, no wallet, and nowhere safe to go. Daniel did not have money to spare or time to lose, yet he felt the weight of the choice pressing on him. In the end, he did what came naturally to someone who had learned empathy the hard way. He offered shelter under the restaurant awning, gave her his own jacket despite the chill, and used what little cash he had to arrange a ride to a nearby shelter that he trusted. He waited with her until the car arrived, rain soaking through his clothes, his shoes squelching with every step. When the car finally pulled away, Daniel felt nothing heroic. He felt cold, late, and anxious about the bus he might miss. He walked home under the downpour, convincing himself it was just one more inconvenience in a life full of them. By the time he reached his apartment, he was shivering, but Lily was asleep, curled up under a blanket with a book fallen from her hands. Daniel covered her gently, his heart easing in that familiar way it always did when he saw her safe. Days passed, heavy and ordinary. Daniel returned to work, served plates, smiled politely, and kept moving. The rain stopped, replaced by a stretch of clear skies that felt almost ironic. Bills piled up, the refrigerator hummed louder when it was nearly empty, and Daniel wondered how long he could keep pretending everything was fine. He did not think about the woman from the rain again, not because she did not matter, but because survival has a way of demanding all your attention. One evening, after dinner, Lily sat on the floor doing homework while the television murmured in the background. Daniel barely noticed the news segment until Lily suddenly froze. Her pencil slipped from her fingers as she stared at the screen, eyes widening with recognition. Daniel looked up, confused, and saw a familiar face framed by studio lights. The young woman from the rain was on TV, her hair dry and styled, her expression composed yet emotional. The headline beneath her image spoke of a rising public figure, someone whose sudden disappearance for a night had sparked concern and speculation. Lily pointed at the screen, her voice trembling with excitement and certainty, as she told her father that the woman on TV was the same lady from the rain, the one who had been scared and alone outside the restaurant. Daniel felt his chest tighten as realization washed over him. The news explained that the woman had been going through a deeply personal crisis, overwhelmed by pressure and expectations, and had stepped away from everything without warning. She spoke about that night, about being at her lowest point, soaked and frightened, and how a stranger's kindness had grounded her enough to seek help instead of disappearing forever. Daniel sank onto the couch, heart pounding as the story unfolded. The woman did not name him, did not know his name, but she described the waiter with tired eyes who had stood in the rain with her, offered warmth without questions, and treated her like a human being when she felt invisible. She spoke of how that moment reminded her that the world still had softness in it, that not everyone would turn away. Daniel felt tears blur his vision, not from pride, but from a strange mixture of relief and awe. Something he had done without expectation had mattered more than he could have imagined. In the days that followed, the story spread. The clip went viral, shared millions of times by people hungry for proof that kindness still existed. Viewers speculated about the anonymous waiter, praising him, wondering who he was. Daniel watched quietly from the sidelines, uncomfortable with attention yet deeply moved. Lily, however, carried the story like a badge of honor. She told her teachers, her friends, anyone who would listen that her dad was the man from the rain. Daniel worried about disappointment if the world found him ordinary, but Lily saw him through a lens unclouded by hardship. Then something unexpected happened. The restaurant received a call, and Daniel was asked to come in early. When he arrived, confused and nervous, he found a small group waiting, including a representative from a foundation connected to the woman from the news. They'd been searching for him, tracing details from that rainy night, determined to say thank you properly. Daniel listened, overwhelmed, as they explained how his kindness had inspired the woman to fund programs supporting single parents and frontline workers struggling silently. She wanted to meet him, not as a celebrity, but as a person whose humanity had saved her. The meeting was quiet and respectful, filled with gratitude that did not feel performative. The woman thanked Daniel with tears in her eyes, acknowledging that he had given her something priceless when she needed it most. She made it clear she did not see him as a hero above others, but as proof of what people could be when they chose compassion. Through the foundation, Daniel was offered help, not as charity, but as recognition. His rent was covered for a year, Lila's education fund was secured, and Daniel was given the opportunity to train for a management position, something he had never believed possible. Life did not transform overnight into a perfect dream. Daniel still worked hard, still felt tired, still carried grief, but the crushing weight of constant fear lifted just enough for him to breathe. He spent evenings helping Lily with homework instead of calculating which bill could wait. He slept a little better, laughed a little more, and allowed himself to imagine a future that extended beyond mere survival. What stayed with him most was not the financial relief or public acknowledgement, but the quiet lesson etched into his heart. That night in the rain had reminded him of who he was beneath exhaustion and loss. He was someone capable of kindness, even when he had little to give. Lily watched her father differently now, not because he was recognized by others, but because she saw the world recognizing the values he lived by every day. As the months passed, Daniel noticed subtle changes in himself. He held doors open longer, listened more patiently, and offered warmth even on days when he felt cold inside. He understood now that kindness was not a transaction waiting for repayment. It was a seed planted without certainty, trusting that something good might grow somewhere someday. If this story has reached you, if it has stirred something gentle and hopeful inside your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need reassurance, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us who we can be. And before this story ends, here is a special request. Please comment below and tell us whether you believe small acts of kindness can truly change lives. Your words might be the encouragement someone else is searching for tonight. On another rainy evening, long after the headlines faded, Daniel walked home with Lily, both of them sharing an umbrella too small for two. The city lights reflected in puddles, and the air smelled clean, washed free of dust and doubt. Lily skipped beside him, talking about dreams and plans, her laughter cutting through the sound of rain. Daniel looked up at the sky and felt something he had not felt in a long time, quiet gratitude. Not for recognition, not for rescue, but for the simple truth that even in the hardest moments, choosing kindness could lead you home.